Oh, we're live? Shh.
All is right with the world. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Cincinnati Bengals, and Craig Stout is back on the KC Laboratory. Let's go!
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our incredible partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. I'm Kent Swanson. I am here with Maddie Lane and the beautiful, handsome, lovely Craig Stout. Maddie, how excited are you to see Craig?
And listen, first of all, we got to make the introduction. Like, we came in here, Craig's just all of a sudden here. I know we've kind of snuck him in before, but here it is. Listen, just close your eyes, sit back,
Don't do this,
and listen. The return is here. Craig Stout is back. The Chiefs have taken down the discount Cleveland Fraud Goals, and he has made his triumphant return to the KC Laboratory for a day, for now. And he is back to talk about this game. Craig, how are you doing from atop the mountaintop, literally and figuratively?
Okay, so question one. If I come back more regularly, will this music not play over my intro anymore?
We can negotiate.
Okay.
Yes.
we can negotiate. Second of all, of course I was coming back. They scored a defensive touchdown. Who else was going to You knew this was coming. The moment that Jamari Connor picked up that football and started running it back towards the opposing end zone, you had to know that I was going to be on the lap the next day. That's how this works.
I am joyful today that Craig Stout's here. I did look. It's been. I didn't realize it had been 2 months since you had last been on the show, but it has been. But I'm so. I thought it was like, it felt like a month ago, but it's like just during the busy season of life, and like you've been crazy busy. You're barely even in the DMs these days.
No, you guys haven't heard from me much at all. Like.
Well, I mean, I did announce that you were going to be at the KCSN golf tournament, and then life happened.
How'd that work?
Didn't go great.
And Craig will be there.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Joshua, Craig is alive. He's doing well.
Craig is alive. He's doing great.
AI. You don't know. Could be
that's actually Tucker. It's Tucker. It was AI. Craig, how
does Grayson ask every week? Is that still how this works here? Grayson, yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine, buddy. I'm fine every week. Everything's great, buddy.
Grayson's just here to say that you're great, and then to say that I picked the Bills. That's our Grayson. That's what we got still.
That's fair.
Although the Bills fan on this podcast has been called into question because there were some people getting on Kent for constantly, bringing up how great Josh Allen is. So, maybe we're just...
You know as well as I do that I listen to this podcast. I am an avid listener of the KC Laboratory because I love my friends, unlike some people.
Can't take notes.
And, Kent has spent a lot of time talking about Josh Allen this offseason. A lot, like an inordinate amount of time talking about Josh Allen. But is the honeymoon phase over with Patrick Mahomes?
Did you foresee this game coming?
Look, here's the thing. There's a lot of intersections in this whole Josh Allen discourse. One, I get to continue to acknowledge the best player in the world, and even Bills fans acknowledge that Patrick Mahomes is Josh Allen's daddy, which is great. But I also get to acknowledge that Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the world. And then I get to irritate like 3 or 4 other fan bases whose quarterbacks are inferior to Josh Allen, but insist on pretending like they aren't. Lamar, Joe. Those are the first 2 quarterbacks that lost to the Kansas City Chiefs this season. I forgot about that.
Convenient.
What? Weird. Chiefs start 2-0. They have beaten the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, and then notably yesterday, Joe Burrow walks off the field very grumpy boy. as the Chiefs beat the Bengals for the, whatever, fourth time in his career. Very delightful. Craig, we really haven't heard your opinion on this game at all. What were your just overarching thoughts before we get into some of the news of the day?
Big Lou Anaromo is very good at what he does. The more I've had time to kind of process what he basically did with the Chiefs here, I know we're going to get to some of this, but basically said, we're going to allow you to run the ball all game long. Andy Reid, guess what, buddy? We want you to commit to the run. I dare you to commit to the run. And he can't. It's not. Even when they're calling RPOs after about the 6-1, Patrick is sitting there going, I haven't thrown it. I don't feel right. And that was kind of the way that it played out. So, good scheme, good game call. I have some, kind of low key conspiracy tinfoil hat theories about how maybe the Cincinnati Bengals did not really game plan the way that they probably should have for the New England Patriots, trying to game plan for the Kansas City Chiefs instead. Again, thinking like most of us did, the New England Patriots are going to be awful. We can probably walk in with a basic game plan and roll right over them. That didn't work. So what we saw in week 1 is not the Cincinnati Bengals of this season. I think they're probably closer to what we saw in week 2 this year. But I think that overall here, it was a game where about everything could have gone wrong for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they come out a 1-point winner. It kind of par for the course in the Patrick Mahomes era. Even when things go badly, it still seems like this team finds a way to win.
Go, Manny.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, it was a typical Chiefs Froggles game, right? It seems like the Chiefs come out and they play a very average game by their standards. And I've said it before. I mean, this is my little bit of tipping the cap to them. Credit to Cincinnati for pulling that out of the Chiefs. At this point in time, the sample size is large enough that we can say that it's not just on accident that the Chiefs play an average game frequently when they play them. Yeah, a lot of it's self-shots to the foot, such as a random fumble as a guy's running by, such as Mahomes just all of a sudden deciding to throw one of the worst passes he's ever decided to throw, right to a linebacker. But to their credit, these happen a lot against this team. So what happens is the Chiefs just play average versus them. And for the most part, the Bengals play very good against the Chiefs, except for the last 2 times Joe Burrow has played. The Fraudgles have shown up in the fourth quarter and they've started making those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And guess what? When both teams are making mistakes, it's the Chiefs that win every single time because they are the better team, hands down. It's not a question anymore. It's not a rivalry anymore. It's done. It's over. The Chiefs have now won 3 in a row against this bum team. The Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls since the last time this bum team beat them in a game that mattered. It's done. It's over.
I think shout out to Joseph Osai and Dijon Anthony, Chiefs legends too, for making those Bungles mistakes. But yeah, I think you're right. Matthew. Hey, look, the Bengals will continue to believe and, will continue to come out with this fake bravado that was proven to be fake again, Jamar Chase. And it will be hilarious to watch. They are in a dogfight for their lives now, and so are the Baltimore Ravens, who also have lost to the Kansas City Chiefs now at this point, and somehow lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, which is also kind of hilarious. That North is going to be insane the rest of the year. It's going to be It's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and the Chiefs essentially have a 3-game lead on the Bengals and on the Ravens at this point. The season is kind of great. It's
that
been
feels
2
nice.
weeks.
That feels nice.
It's been 2 weeks. We probably should get into the news of the day. The Chiefs did not come out of the Chiefs-Bengals game unscathed. Isiah Pacheco is injured, has a fractured right fibula, believed to be out for an extended period of time. Some timetable is projecting 4 to 8 weeks. Very likely that he will be going on the IR. This was a position group that was getting a lot in, a lot was in flux, I think even up until, until cut down day, around that window of time. Carson Steele makes his ascent up the, up depth chart, and then they stabilize things with a guy named Samaje Perine, who has primarily been a third down back and a pass catching back. That's what your group looks like without Isiah Pacheco. Maddie, what are your thoughts on this room right now?
I mean, okay, so if they don't make any moves, we get out ahead of it. We're going to talk about it in a second. Kareem Hunt is coming to visit the Chiefs tomorrow on a Tuesday. If you were listening to this on a Tuesday, it will be then. Kareem will be in Kansas City visiting. We will see how that goes. We can talk about that in a second. But until then, this room is currently consisting of Carson Steele and Samaje Perine and a practice squad call-up of either, only two options, Amani Bailey or Keontae Ingram. There's not a lot there. There's not a lot of meat left on those bones. There's not a whole lot that you can do. So yeah, I think this running back room definitely could use some help. I think even if you kind of dive deeper, they could have probably used more help going into the year. I think they probably thought they were going to get they brought in J.K. Dobbins for a visit. It sounds like they were at one point in time interested in Josh Jacobs. Like they were flirting around the running back market as is, even with a healthy Isiah Pacheco. I think they knew they wanted a little bit more and they were unable to land it. This injury, I think, kind of forces their hand.
It does. It does. And, it's one of those in retrospect, J.K. Dobbins has a lengthy injury history as well. We talked about him during the off season there before I took off from the lab full time. He looks awful good right now. It would be real nice to have a J.K. Dobbins, but they need another body right now. They need another guy that they can trust to be an early down back. Again, Carson Steele, we all like him, but he's a rookie. He still has rookie moments. He still has welcome to the NFL moments. We saw one this week where he's sitting there and he's touting the rock high and tight, not high and tight enough, not having two hands on the ball when he's running through, a whole bunch of tackles there. So you want another guy that you can count on a little bit more. I do think that the Chiefs are probably going to call up one of an Amani Bailey or a Keontae Ingram. I'm guessing Ingram at this point, just for being here another year. And then I think we'll see Kareem Hunt start to get reintegrated into this. I don't know if he's going to be immediately on the active roster. They have probably 3 open spaces now, which is a very odd situation to be in going into week 3, having a whole bunch of empty active roster spots. But I don't know if Kareem Hunt is ready to just walk in off the street right now, come in and play significant snaps for the Chiefs. I think they're going to count on a guy that's been there all offseason, that has been there for part of this, and then kind of slowly integrate a Kareem Hunt into this. It's really sad. Isiah Pacheco dropped some weight. He looked quicker. He looked better. Like I think we were seeing the best version of Isiah Pacheco that we've seen in the NFL so far this year through 2 games. Now, granted, again, the Cincinnati Bengals were saying, yes, run the ball on us. We don't care. It was more what we saw against the Ravens. I liked what we saw out of Isiah Pacheco. I liked what we saw out of him in the preseason. I think this was going to be a really big year for him. So hopefully he can get that, kind of healed and back on the field for the Chiefs. Who knows? Before the playoffs come, I know that we just got done with one of these with Hollywood Brown as well. I think Kareem Hunt is another couple weeks away, maybe, before we start seeing, okay, yeah, Kareem Hunt's going to come in here and do this. So let me position it this way to you guys, because I have watched some Kareem Hunt over the past couple of years. And I think when Chiefs fans see, Kareem Hunt coming back to Kansas City, they are thinking of the guy from 2017 and 2018 who was a superstar running back, unequivocally a superstar running back, led the league in rushing in 2017, was fantastic through 2018 before the incident occurred, before he gets dismissed from the team, comes back to Cleveland. I think people remember when he came back into the league. Guess what? He was still good. It's been a couple years since he has been good. He has not been over 4 yards a carry for the past couple of years. And one of the things that he kind of prided himself on and that who's really good at breaking tackles, that contact balance that we talk about. Again, broken tackles, we're looking at 18 year 1, truncated year 4 in year 2, 18 his 3rd year in the league, 9 in 8 games, goes down with injury. 6-2 the last 2 years, despite playing basically the majority of the season. The juice is a little bit gone here. So I'm kind of throwing this out to you two here, but should we mitigate some of the expectations of a Kareem Hunt right now for those who are maybe sitting there going, I remember the guy in Kansas City and I remember his start to Cleveland. He's not that same guy anymore.
Absolutely. I think we should. Like, I hope that he has something left in the tank for this team, so that he can kind of help contribute if the Chiefs elect to make that move. But the reality is the recency of the tape has not been particularly strong. You're right. He lacks, I mean, he wasn't a super explosive guy at the top, but he lacks the, the contact balance, what explosiveness he had isn't as great as it used to be. And so you're looking at, and a guy that's been in a timeshare too. Like, it's not like he's been a heavy workload. This is a guy that was, struggling to find a consistent role over the last couple of years, even with the Browns, and was getting, outsnapped at times by not even just Nick Chubb, but I think like Jerome Ford, I think is his name. Right. So I think that the expectations definitely need to be tempered. And it's not that you're getting some guy that you're right, Craig. I'm not sure this is a walk-in day one and is just ready to contribute and ready to play meaningful snaps. I think there's a reason that he has been out on the market to this point, and we'll see if a deal even materializes with him and the Chiefs. I still think there's a process, right? There's probably a workout involved and all that kind of stuff. So, there's a reason he still doesn't have a job when a lot of other veteran backs have at least found their way into a camp somewhere. He hasn't even been on a practice squad to this point. So I think it's something worth paying attention to. I don't know what you think, Maddie.
I mean, even last year, the Browns hadn't brought him back to their team until Nick Chubb was hurt to start the year. So they weren't even that excited to bring back Mr. Hunt last season. And then this year, he's only a year older after even less production going into last year. So he's not a guy that you can come in and expect to get the Chiefs version of Mr. Hunt, or expect to get the same version that the Browns got in 2020, where he was an excellent second punch to a Nick Chubb. So we got to be a little careful. I will say the one thing that stood out to me going back, and I watched some of his runs, Mr. Hunt's runs this past season from this past year.
Clark's getting a lot of run on this podcast right now, Maddie.
They move about the same speed. The difference is Mr. Kareem Hunt still has some power to his legs. He's not forcing missed tackles at the same rate, but I don't think it's a power thing. Like, he still drives forward through contact. He still changes levels and has the body control that he once had. It's just not as explosive as it once was. So there's still some power there, and he still has the footwork to make some good lateral cuts. He still makes some jump cuts that I don't think Carson Steele or Samaje Perine are making as runners very frequently. So the Chiefs bring him in. They get Mr. Kareem Hunt up to speed. I think that they might trust his ability to run a variety of different run schemes more than they trust Steele, more than they trust Perine. Perine's never been a huge rusher. He's never got a big rushing workload. Carson Steele essentially runs downhill. That's the run plays, just downhill. That's what they are. They're downhill. Even in the preseason, when they had him run inside and outside zone, no, it was called downhill zone. Like, that's what he is. That's fine. He's an undrafted rookie. That's okay. But this team wants to do more than that. So I do think there's actually a path for Mr. Kareem Hunt to get on the field for this team in the future if he is signed, just because I think he can run gap stuff, zone stuff at a better rate than the other guys. I just don't think he'll be great.
Yeah, no, and I fully agree with that. I see some people talking about how, his touchdown production was great. It's red zone threat and all that. That's what you got Carson Hunt to do. Like, I mean, that's
Steele.
You're going to see
Carson Steele.
Yeah, sorry. Maddie said Mr. Hunt so many times in like a 2-minute period that everybody is going to be a Hunt today. So, no, but Carson Steele, that's what you brought him in to do. That's what he does really well. Run behind his pads, keep the legs driving. And so they are kind of samey, but I do like that assessment, Maddie. Yes, he's going to be more familiar with some of the Chiefs' run scheme. He's going to be more familiar with, taking RPOs from Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be a little bit more familiar with some of the pass protection calls that they're going to try and dial up, some of the routes that he's going to be out there. He still had some decent receiving production for the Browns, even though he wasn't a guy that was, a focal part of their offense in the same way that some of the other guys were there. But I want people to not come in here and expect, oh, this is the guy. It's the same guy anymore. He's gone through several injuries. He's older now. That's part of it. We talk about running backs all the time. It's the same reason that we're talking about Jet McKinnon. Doesn't mean that he can't be a functional part of this offense, but expecting him to go out there and be the version of himself from 2 years ago, or for a Jet McKinnon to come in and be the version of himself from 2 or 3 years ago, is just not on the table in a big way anymore.
Yeah, so I want to ask you both, I guess, this question. So Isiah Pacheco, we acknowledge, is a big loss. Looks great. Good back. How comfortable do you feel about Carson Steele, Samaje Perine? But who, by the way, Samaje Perine getting some love from Adam Schefter and Matthew Berry. I know Matthew Berry's more fantasy guy, but he's also well connected sometimes, saying that the expectation, or anticipating Samaje Perine playing a potential lead role in that running back room, which doesn't pass the smell test entirely to me. Anyway, Samaje Perine, we'll assume, Carson Steele, and perhaps Mr. Hunt. Craig, how do you feel about that running? Craig, how do you feel about that running back room?
Carson.
No. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, as good as I can about any Chiefs running back room. They're never going to throw a whole bunch of assets at this anymore. They tried that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, realized, oh man, these guys get hurt a lot. This is something that takes a toll on these guys' body. Maybe we can't just set it and forget it anymore. So I think it's going to be fine. Yes, they're probably not going to be able to lean on some of the run concepts that they were before, but that's fine. They want to throw the ball more. They want to be a little more one-dimensional towards the pass. I'm fine with that. I am curious to see if Samaje Perine has a little bit more of the offense down. Remember, they traded for him right before the season. He also did not get a full offseason with this team. So he's got some coming up to speed that he needs to do. What I'm talking about with Kareem Hunt, basically 2-3 weeks from now, being able to turn around. Yes, I'm going to emphasize it. Being able to turn this around, in 3 weeks, get on the field. The same sort of timeline goes for Samaje Perine as well. So yes, 3 weeks in, let's try and craft a game plan around Perine a little bit more, try and lean on him a little bit more in the run game. I can see it. He's just always been a little bit more of a pass catcher, and maybe that means that we're going to see a higher propensity of early down passes with Samaje Perine out there because they can trust him to pick things up, run routes in a little bit different way than Isiah Pacheco. I can see it being beneficial.
Yeah, I think Isiah Pacheco had a very good game, a very good start to the year. I don't know if Isiah Pacheco not being able to play for the Chiefs and having to be replaced by Carson Steele, Samaje Perine, and the potential of Mr. Kareem Hunt is something that bothers me. I don't think it really impacts the team a ton. Isiah Pacheco really doesn't do much, beyond, if you look at rush yards over expectation, if you look at rush yards created after contact, he's always kind of been below average to, some weeks it'll spike because he'll break a tackle, then he has the speed to bust a big one. But generally speaking, he kind of gets what's blocked. He does so with awesome energy and effort. So we like it as fans. It looks really cool, but it's not overly efficient. So yeah, I think losing a starting running back who is taking 70% of the snaps is going to have an impact. I just don't know if it's as significant as other teams losing their clear-cut running back one might be. So, we'll see. And we're going to talk about, as we talk about the offense later, how the Prodigal's kind of allowed the Chiefs and Isiah Pacheco to do their thing, and how the Chiefs, they had a good game with it, but they didn't dominate. They didn't dominate the game flow because of it. So I think that'll hurt. I just don't know if it'll sink them.
Maddie, do you know who didn't do their thing in that game?
I'm going to guess a fraud goal wide receiver.
Yeah, Jamar Chase did not do his thing because Trent McDuffie is a freaking star. I know we talked about this a lot on the post-game show last night, Craig, but you weren't on the post-game show last night or anything for the last 2 months for that matter. Craig, what's been your take on Trent McDuffie's start to the season?
Well, I don't know. He's pretty good. I don't know. It's all right, I suppose. Just locking up one of the best receivers in the league, a guy that they clearly wanted to target. Obviously, this changes quite a bit if D. Higgins is around in this game as well, but with one credible wide receiving threat. I realized that one of them caught 2 touchdowns. Give me a break here. But one real credible superstar wide receiver on this team, it was kind of expected that they were going to bracket him a little bit. They were going to do different creative things to try and take him away. But I was surprised how often they just said, "Hey, Trent, now you got this snap. You're fine. You're in one-on-one coverage, man coverage. Just go shut him down." And he did. He did all game long. Some of his reps in the red zone were unbelievably great. I just absolutely locking up one of the best receivers in the league to the point where he got so frustrated that he wanted something called on a perfectly legal tackle that he got really frustrated and probably should have been kicked out of the game. That ref gave him a lot of grace there before throwing that first flag, and then he kept going. Trent McDuffie is outstanding. And I think when we all watched him play last year, we knew that was the case. But we also had a L'Jarius Sneed that we were paying attention to as well. And so the discussion was always, L'Jarius Sneed is one of the best corners in the league, playing this boundary corner position, following around number one wide receivers. Who does the league go around and they make sure gets the award? It's Trent McDuffie coming out of the slot. We are starting this year where he has played more boundary snaps than slot snaps. And all he has done is performed even better than he did last year. He looks more comfortable playing the ball in the air. He looks more comfortable staying in phase with wide receivers through multiple different breaks, doing scramble drills. It's some of the hardest stuff that you are seeing cornerbacks have to do against one of the best receivers in the league. Oh, and Zay Flowers last year was a very good receiver too. Guess what? Trent McDuffie's not giving space. He's not giving that ability for these guys to get open. There was all this doom and gloom about the Chiefs cornerback room, and there may still be a little bit of doom and gloom there. I'm not trying to completely sweep it under the rug, but wondering where that was all going to come from if Trent McDuffie was ready for this moment. He absolutely was through 2 games here. I can't say enough. He's getting another All-Pro nod if he keeps playing like this.
All right. Trent McDuffie's been great. It's been a little annoying listening to like summer football podcasts and everybody talking about Sauce Gardner and Patrick Surtain are corners 1-2, right? And like then there's a separation between them and the next guy. And I'm okay with that going into this year. I'm okay listening to that. I'm okay with that talk. But everybody starts talking about Derek Stingley or if these other Tariq Woolen can get back on track and all these other young guys. And I'm sitting here like looking around like, what? You're missing somebody. And it's like, oh, he plays in the slot. Like we're calling this a different position. It is what it is. He's great at that, but we haven't seen him play on the boundary. Well, here we are playing more on the boundary than in the slot. We still do both. I don't know. I kind of call that a win if you can do 2 things instead of just one. Oh, by the way, he happens to be one of the best, if not the best slot player in terms of blitzing, stopping the run. Don't believe me? Let's just go look up stops that cornerbacks make throughout the year. You know, you can go to last year, look at pressures, stop percentage, whatever it may be versus the run against the pass. Like it's all the same. It comes up Trent McDuffie's the guy. Okay, but this year we're going to kick you outside and we're going to say, hey, we're not necessarily shadowing number 1 wide receivers, but you're kind of going to follow Zay Flowers anytime it allows. You're kind of going to follow Jamar Chase anytime this play allows it. And, you know, sometimes you're going to get help. Sometimes you're not. Let's see how you do. And, oh, I don't know. Do you guys want to guess where Trent McDuffie ranks in the NFL of corners that have played 50 coverage snaps or more in snaps per target? Keep in mind, this is a guy that is covering Jamar Chase, a team's number 1 wide receiver, and Zay Flowers, a team's number 1 wide receiver for the majority of the game.
Is it 22? I'm guessing jersey number here, Maddie.
Ooh, you know, it's a good guess, but no, it's lower than that.
Okay.
Guess Kent.
Is it number, I don't know, 2?
Oh, that's a really good guess. Close. It was 3. He's 3rd. He is 3rd in the NFL. 30. I know. I wish it was first. I was really hoping it was first. Shout out friends, you know, people that we were fans of, and Christian Fulton and Zion McCollum as 1 and 2 ahead of him. Wow.
Oh,
his name's
weird.
Oh, look at all those tier 1 Seabats living right up there.
It's crazy. But no, Trent McDuffie is 3rd in the NFL and snaps. And then you look at like how many yards he's given up. And then, the tackle stopping Jamar Chase, arguably the best, one of the top 5 wide receivers in terms of creating yak after the catch. He stuffs him right there. Oh, not only did he stuff him, he big boyed his sorry ass so bad that this man cried for 20 straight seconds on national television until he got flagged and lost his team. Was a net negative for his team on the play because he got sunned so bad by somebody like 4 inches shorter than him and 30 pounds lighter. It was perfect. It was amazing.
To be fair, they both have short arms. So there is that part. And also Trent McDuffie did hip drop. He just dropped his hips while he was doing the splits all over Jamar Chase. So like, let's just be fair about that too. But no, he's incredible, man.
I'm not being fair about anything, Ken. Jamar Chase needs to grow up, man.
He just needs to cope. He just needs to cope a little bit more. I genuinely love how much Jamar hates the Chiefs
he
and
hates Kansas City.
despises I love it, and I love the fact that Lucy's been pulling the football out from underneath him for like 700 days, and he still has no rings, and they can't get enough people to pay to pay for him, and it's great. It's delicious. We're gonna take.
No, go ahead. No, that's fine.
I got doing this one live again.
Do you think, drink everybody watching, do you think that if Jamar Chase is a free agent, is going to be a free agent because he is not sticking around that sorry franchise. Do you think when he's a free agent, if the Chiefs matched the number, would he go there? If the number was even, so I know he hates the Chiefs, but is it a hate as in, damn, I really wish I was on that team that's just better than me? Or do you think he fundamentally hates them? Because I go back and forth.
I have thought this very same thing in the last 24 hours because I think I almost quote tweeted one of the contract disputes, and I just said the Chiefs have the chance to do the funniest thing ever.
Like, they never would. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Chiefs have any interest in paying that much money for a wide receiver.
They don't need them.
If the option was there and presented, I can't tell if he hates them so much that he would say no, or if it's, I hate you so much because I can't be on your team, so like I have to hate you kind of thing. I can't get a good read on him. Because T. Higgins would come to KC in a heartbeat.
Well, T. Higgins was already laying the groundwork. He was like, I don't want to commit fully to this I hate Kansas City thing. Like, I'm fine
like
with
them in April.
Yeah, they're fine.
In March.
Yeah, when they want to give me money. Jamar Chase refused to say Patrick Mahomes' name in the NFL Top 100.
That was such a good bit, though.
That's a different level of
Wait, no, he was talking about the number 1 player in the NFL Top 100, not the number 4 player, Craig.
Oh, you're right.
I remember who number 1 is.
Man, I'm glad.
No, nobody does. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't take a break. Yeah, we can do it now.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. You can forget having to negotiate a bill with big wireless providers only to still find a way that they are upcharging you for different things. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Fellas, it's the best time of year. Football is back, and we're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and that glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where you can take your inner GM and bring it to life by setting that perfect fantasy roster, screaming at the TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone makes fun of in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. And let's be honest, fellas, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp below the waist with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. Join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the code KCSports for 20% off plus free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code KCSports at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code KCSports at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
Thank you, everybody, hanging out with us tonight, and especially thanks to Craig Stout for hanging out with us tonight. This is quite a delightful little surprise. We get the message today at I don't know, it was like 1 o'clock. I was like, oh, this is the best day ever. So yeah, I'm really glad to have the trio together again today. Maddie, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that the run game was doing in this game against the Bengals.
It was more so that I think the Fraud Goals invited the Chiefs to run, and then the Chiefs very much took advantage. Like, you go back and watch, the interior offensive line for the Chiefs team was absolutely dominant, but the Bengals were kind of giving it up a little bit. They were playing a little bit soft. They were allowing the Chiefs to get numbers and advantage in the run game, but Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey had an outstanding day. They were destroying the defensive tackles, whatever was left of them. They were climbing up to the second level. They were giving big lanes for the running backs to run through, and Carson Steele and Isiah Pacheco generally made very good use of that. I think if you were in years past and games past, the Chiefs, given these looks, maybe wouldn't stick to the run game to call 27 designed run plays. That's an absurd number for an Andy Reid team. Absurd number, especially for one that, like, it's not like they ran 80 plays or something in this game. That's an absurd number for them. And so they kept calling the run. They stuck to it all game long. That, I don't want to say kept them in the game, but the passing game wasn't clicking a ton. The Bengals were giving them the look to do it, and the Chiefs took advantage. Like, this is what you want to see. You're going to play this soft zone coverage. You're going to sit in too high and park 3 linebackers in the middle of the field over and over again and say, throw it to the flat or run the ball. The Chiefs showed that they can run the ball over and over again, pick up chunk yards all the way down the field numerous times. And it's like, that was good to see, because we didn't really see, I thought the run game looked good versus Baltimore. It was varied. They did some new stuff. They did even more new stuff in this game. Like, they did some new stuff and it worked well. It just didn't have a lot of production. This week, the production followed. Now, the Bengals defensive line is the polar opposite of the Ravens. There's one stud and then a bunch of guys that probably shouldn't really play much, versus the Ravens is actually a good defensive line. But, like, so it was just nice to see the run game get going and find its footing, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I wish they were a little bit less predictable with when they were calling the runs. Like, I know that we kind of harp on the fact that, Andy Reid likes to run, second and long or second and medium, draws to players and stuff like that. But we didn't see very many second down runs this week. And so it became, towards the end, the production sort of slowed a little bit, because it was very telling. Chiefs are going to come out. They're going to run the ball on first down. Patrick Mahomes is going to drop back way deep in the pocket to pass, maybe a play action pass, something like that. But he's going to drop way deep, try and get it all on a second down. And then they're going to be in a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 5, and they're going to try and convert via the air. I wish we would have seen a few more second down runs, a few more opportunities when the Bengals were so clearly just saying, hey, you can have this. We are fine with this. And they allowed them to do it all day long. Isiah Pacheco ripping off 8-yard runs on first down and then not really touching the ball. That rest of that set of downs is not something that, I like, given what Lou Anarumo was giving the Chiefs. Now, again, throwing the ball is better. Don't take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. I can hear people screaming it already. Yes, fully agree. But when you've got a defensive coordinator that is saying, we will die by 1,000 cuts, just do not get beat in the middle of the field or deep by this Chiefs team, we're going to give up the run. And then they lose 2 of their best run-stuffing defensive tackles. Man, I don't know, but that's one of those opportunities where I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, I don't care if we're down a couple points. I don't care what the game situation is. We got 14 minutes left on the clock. Let's pound the rock for a little while here. Let's make them have to bring more people into the box. And then on a first down, maybe we try a play action pass, versus being a little bit more repetitive of a run, play action pass, then run, play action pass. It just got to the point where a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who was very clearly timing the snap, knew the snap count, and knew that it was going to be a pass on some of these downs, was just able to pin his ears back and dominate a Kingsley Suamataia. I mean, give him some help. Give him a little bit of help there.
Craig, we got to work on that. I know it's,
That's okay.
maybe
I'm out of practice.
Suamataia. There we go.
Suamataia.
I think it is a good concept for some teams to say, hey, let's take the ball and let's get it out of Patrick Mahomes' hands and not really let him have a ton of impact on the play after he hands that ball off. Like, I think that's I know it's not the smartest thing to say after a 2-interception game, but for the most part, teams are wanting to try to avoid getting Patrick Mahomes involved in this football game. So inviting the run and letting a undrafted free agent rookie running back take a carry and fumble football at midfield. Things like that. Good things can happen when you're taking the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. It helps take, him away a little bit. It's like, I think there is a little bit of a prevailing thought, just like, let's just do that. let's just kind of invite that a little bit. And I think the Bengals are as good as any team in the National Football League at getting the, kind of dictating a little bit about what the Chiefs want to do, right? And they encourage things like, getting into some of the run concepts. So I mean, good on Lou Anarumo. The Chiefs did have some success. I will say, I thought the run success was worse than it actually was in the second half. It wasn't as good as the first half. But I thought there was a lot more 1 and 2 yard runs than there really was. It was more just a 4-yard run only, which is still a good run on first down.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think that ultimately was something that the Bengals were trying to do, right? The Bengals were sitting there. They were trying to goad the Chiefs into running, and then they were going to play red zone roulette. They were going to play third down roulette, and they won in this particular game. And I think that led to some of the struggles that the Chiefs offense had. So you said that you thought there was be a more 1 and 2 yard runs. And yeah, there wasn't, a ton of them in this game, but they still were only averaging just over 4 yards per carry on these designed runs. That's not big. You run the ball 27 times, you're getting those favorable looks. You probably want to start hitting some explosives. You probably want to start completely taking over the game. And the Chiefs' run game wasn't doing that. They were very effective. They were very efficient, but they weren't taking over the game. At no point did it feel like the Chiefs were about to run the ball 5 straight times and score a touchdown, a la the Lions in week 1 in overtime against the Rams. Like that just felt inevitable at that point in time. It never felt that way for the Chiefs. It was just small chunk, small chunk, small chunk, small chunk play over and over again. And I think part of that issue that you come into, and this leads to like a lot of the, I think, problems that the Chiefs offense had, the passing game gets a little out of rhythm, right? You haven't set stuff up all game long. You're constantly putting yourself in, again, not a lot of 1 and 2 yard runs, but there were some. You're getting into the Chiefs faced only 8 third downs. They only threw the ball on 5 of them. Of those 5, 4 of them were like 3rd and 8 plus. So like when they got it, now I'm not saying it's because of runs that they got there. It's just the third downs that they were failing at consistently with the passing game were a little bit longer. And it just, when the passing game wasn't flowing because they weren't really relying on it, I think it knocked them out of rhythm a little bit. So yeah, I do think inviting the Chiefs to run the ball, if they are not going to make you pay with big runs, if they're not going to make you pay with explosives or big chunk plays, that's probably something other teams are going to do. Your best run against this soft zone coverage, giving you favorable numbers in the box, is 11 yards. I don't know if that's worth 27 runs. I don't know if 27 runs, I just don't know if that's the answer. You have to execute so perfectly. You definitely can't do that and throw 2 interceptions that aren't great and then have a fumble on one of those carries going forward. You probably win the game more comfortably without the turnovers. Let me be very clear about that. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know how repeatable that level of success is if you're going to run the ball that much without a run longer than 11 yards.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the kind of gross feeling that we all had after that game. It's like, oh, they didn't play well. Yeah, it was a run-heavy game. And an Andy Reid run-heavy game is not one that looks particularly dominant, effective, whatever the case may be. And that was with Alex Smith at quarterback. Now you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So it looks even worse. And then when Mahomes also does not play well, you just kind of look at the offense as a whole and you're like, that was gross. I did not enjoy any bit of that. It's just not what we're used to. It's not, even last year, it was not what we were used to. However, when it got to the point where you've got Lou Anarumo that is taking away some of the things that the Chiefs have done best, the way that they've utilized their offensive weapons, we knew they were going to try and take Travis Kelce away, but the way that they took Rashee Rice away, Rashee Rice did not have a non-penalty target in the middle of the field after spending week 1 basically posted up in the middle of between the hashes, getting targeted repeatedly and running after the catch. They took that completely out of the game. They took Travis Kelce, again, outside of penalties, completely out of the game. If you look at Patrick Mahomes' passing chart from week 1, he is living in the middle of the field with some downfield stuff outside of the numbers. If you look at his passing chart on Next Gen Stats right now, he has 3 passes in the middle of the field. 3 that were beyond the line of scrimmage there. And then everything else is outside the numbers, behind the line of scrimmage, or a small little pocket of like curl routes that are off to the right. Just the right, not the left. So, I mean, it's they were forced to play a game that does not fit the two players that you want to get major targets in Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice led the team with 6 targets at the end of the game. Yes, I know that's partially because they ran the ball a lot, but you should not be in a situation where your leading receiver of a Patrick Mahomes-led team is getting 6 targets. Lou Anarumo did such a good job of clogging up the middle of the field, allowing the run, keeping a lid on Xavier Worthy, that it was just all the things, all the answers that the Chiefs wanted to put on the field, they weren't able to. Now, they improvised. They tried some other things. They didn't look super pretty while they were doing it, but Lou Anarumo kind of laid a little bit, just a little bit of a blueprint for this year and saying, this is how we can do this and try and force them once again to live in the short areas of the field.
I think like formationally, they did some different stuff. The Chiefs did, like it felt a little bit more heavy and condensed even in this game than it did against the Ravens. They weren't playing as much empty as they were against the Ravens, which is where Rashee Rice feasted because the Chiefs lined up in empty or some version of it, or went
everybody out. Yeah.
Went fast 3 with a running back leaking out into the flat or something like that, and then like he's just running all these slants in the middle of the field, and they really didn't go to that. They weren't really in empty a lot. Felt like they were playing a lot heavier. Felt they were playing more
real
tight ends in the backfield.
Chiefs were 3rd lowest in terms of 11 personnel usage in week 2 at 44.1%. The only 2 teams below them, Arizona Cardinals and New Orleans Saints, who had really good games. So I don't know if we can make a lot from this, but the Chiefs were the 3rd lowest team in terms of just 11 personnel usage. So that backs up exactly.
That's not their game.
It was a mix-up. It was a mix-up to what they were doing just the week prior. It was an entire tendency breaker, and I don't know what the line of thinking was there. I mean, you can play more. I think you can play more condensed and stuff because you're the Chiefs, because teams don't want to blitz Mahomes, so like you're not as worried about some of the threats of some of the condensed stuff or some of the tighter looks. But I don't know. It was different. Like the Chiefs were not playing the same kind of game that they were against the Ravens. And I don't know exactly what the line of thinking was for that, but it wasn't as successful as we've seen from some of these teams, from some of this, even just a week prior.
Yeah, I went back and watched this game, and I watched, I kind of started with all of the pressured snaps, and there actually wasn't that many, and they were all Trey Hendrickson pressures. And then I watched all the 3rd downs. Then I went back and watched all the pass plays, right? So like I kind of tried to work through like high leverage situations to figure out what went wrong with the passing attack. And realistically, there wasn't a lot there that like you can say this is probably a long-term issue. A couple of those plays, Trey Hendrickson did blow up. Like he completely ruined the 2-minute drive, and some of the stuff in the 4th quarter, he absolutely ruined because Kingsley was not ready for that matchup. Like it was a matchup that we identified as just like that type of rusher. So circle that Vegas game against Max Crosby. Like that's that's a guy, even Judon a little bit, but his hands aren't quite as good. But guys that are really good with their hands, I think are going to give Kingsley a lot of trouble this year. And we've had questions about it. So I guess now I'm going to go tangent off my own tangent. Helping a tackle is kind of difficult if you don't practice it. Jeff did a great job in the postgame talking about this. So go back and listen to the postgame show where Jeff Schwartz kind of talks about it a little bit. If you don't practice helping an offensive tackle, the timing's going to be off, where the tackle sets is going to be off. So you can't just like all of a sudden say, oh no, we're going to chip every single play starting now if you haven't worked on it. And so when you go and watch in the 4th quarter where they tried to chip, it looked really bad. It just didn't. The timing wasn't right. The chip player couldn't get to Hendrickson at all. He was just running through the chest or the shoulder of Kingsley routinely because he wasn't setting differently enough to handle the inside or the power move. So it just wasn't meshing. I understand saying, add help to him. They did try to add help for what they could on the go. It just wasn't working. Now, we can be critical and say, well, maybe they should have had an answer ready for this exact situation. If these schmucks sitting here watching the game online can say, hey, maybe that matchup's going to be a problem, maybe they should have had a solution at the ready. And I agree with that. They probably should have had something better ready, but you can't just throw help at him. So needless to say, that matchup did cost them some. Outside that, though, it's not like the passing game had nothing going. The completion percentage was 72%. Yeah, it was all short into the flats, but that's what we've screamed at this team to take we said, hey, they're just playing soft, throw the ball to the flat, pick up yards after the catch. Like, it wasn't explosive, it wasn't fun, but like, it's not like, again, if you remove the bad interceptions, it's not like the passing offense wasn't finding some success. It was just very boring success because that's what was given. You guys nailed it. They were clogging up the middle of the field, running a ton of static cover 2, a lot of Tampa 2. That's putting 3 backers in the middle of the field, and they were playing a tight triangle, and the Chiefs are going condensed in heavier formations instead of trying to spread them out. Again, Ken's point, maybe I don't know what the plan is. A tendency breaker. Maybe they don't want to show them anything more. I don't know what the rationale is. It's just, it was nothing to be overly concerned about. I don't think it was just kind of bad luck. 2 bad throws by Patrick Mahomes result in turnovers. The passing game outside that wasn't good, but it was serviceable when you pair it with that run game if you remove the turnover. So not concerned long-term. I do wish that they would have given Xavier Worthy some chances. I think he was open a little bit more than what his targets say. I mean, one, the corner route on the first pick. We already mentioned it once.
The corner.
You throw that's what that play is. I think Kent is a little bit of the different mind that it was like kind of like maybe a middle option play for Travis Kelce, and maybe you want to try to get Kelce involved, so you look there. But like, I'm watching the play unfold. I'm like, the first read in this play is the corner of the side you're looking to, which is Xavier Worthy. He gets the look you want. This is the coverage you throw this against. You got to unleash that. You're not getting paid $50 million to not throw that ball, right? Like, that is what you're paid money to do in the NFL. I don't mean specifically Mahomes, just quarterbacks are paid money to make that throw. You got to throw that one. There was a couple other plays that I think Worthy got loose in, whether it was pressure or work on the other side of the field. So not concerned about Worthy. I wish that I'll come back in again later. So I've been talking for like 5 minutes straight now because I dove in on this. I'll come back in later. Go ahead, Greg.
What do we think about Andy Reid basically saying, hey, Xavier Worthy's got to be a DB on that second pick there? I mean,
see week 1.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of those that, yeah, I get it. But
they did try. They did try to give him a shot down there. They gave him a shot, Maddie, to your point.
Underthrown ball. Yeah.
And then Mahomes tried to go backside to him on like a hitch or some kind of like it was like a hitch at the sticks. And the front side concept looked real tasty too. Like, he just had a one-on-one, but they had a swing and an out route open on the front side, and Xavier was lined up as an X, and maybe it's just tendency breaking stuff. Maybe it's just showing a bunch of stuff these first couple weeks. And honestly, that might be part of the case too. Sorry, that was a sidebar, but it makes all the sense on the back.
How dare you?
You've got Rashee Rice running a vertical. You've got like all kinds of like crazy stuff happening in this game. Maybe they're just trying to set the stage for this offense. Please continue, Craig.
No, it makes that's kind of where I was going. There were just so many out of character moments, out of character things, and because of what the Bengals were giving them, they couldn't lean on maybe some of the more in character things. They were able to take away some of that stuff. Now, I want to go way, way back, rewind all the way back to Kingsley and chipping. Yeah. Thank you, Maddie, for visually backing up. I really appreciate that. It's not going to get better. I hate to ruin everybody's fun here, but it's not going to get better. If Isiah Pacheco is going to miss some time, not going to get much better. Now, all of a sudden, Samaje Perine, maybe, as he gets a little bit more integrated into this, they can work on that a little bit, but that's not going to be one of those things that week after week they're going to be spending lots of time practicing. Because as we see time and time again with Andy Reid, what is he going to do? He's going to leave his tackle on an island until he needs to offer help. He always starts that way. It's just, hey, let's figure out if we can get this done because I want 5 in the route. I don't want to have somebody that's left in to chip or to help out with one of our tackles. We drafted you for a reason, to come in here and be alone on an island and shut down pass rushers. And Kingsley, to his credit, said it after the game. Shout out Ross. It's excellent. Excellent. Excellent's the right one. But shout out Wyoder. What Kingsley said in the post game in the locker room afterwards, he knows that to be the case. Like, he took full ownership of that. It's like, I did not play up to what I have to do. This team has an expectation of me, and I did not live up to that expectation today. And that's good. He knows that they don't want to offer that help. And the best way to not offer that help is to go out and be a top-tier left tackle. Now, don't expect a second-round rookie to come in and just automatically be that, especially against a guy that has the technique and ability of a Trey Hendrickson. I completely understand why he got whooped in this matchup. Like, makes all the sense in the world. But every game, they are going to start out, and what are they going to do? They're going to leave whoever it is, whether it be Wanye Morris or Kingsley Suamataia, out on his own to start the game until they absolutely have to do something about it. And the reason why Kingsley ended up on the bench by the end of that game is primarily because they couldn't figure out the chips. So they can't figure out how to help him right. And rather than, trying to figure that out live and in the moment during a 2-minute drill, no, let's put the guy in that's had a little bit more work at this, is going to be able to accept that help in a different way, set a little harder to the inside, knowing that the back's going to be on the outside here to help him out. It makes all the sense in the world. I don't think that's an indicator for Kingsley moving forward. I think he still starts week 3, but I think in the moment they knew we need this to win the game. Wanye, get in there because we know we can chip help you by the way that you kind of operate and you have operated for the past 2 years.
If you notice on the illegal hands to the face play by Wanye Morris, he was getting supreme help from Joe Tooney in that particular play too. But yeah, I think it was just like hey, we don't have time. We didn't really rep this well. We haven't done a great job of repping this chip help. So let's just get somebody in there with a little bit more comfortability. It wasn't Kingsley's day. I think Kingsley, I credited Trey Hendrickson for doing a great job getting off the ball during that game. But also, I don't think Kingsley was doing a great job getting off the ball on his own either. I think he was a little bit late off the ball in his own right. So it was a combination of Trey was timing some things well and he was getting off well, and then Kingsley was not. He was late, and so that was very problematic for Kingsley being able to find some success there. So yeah, that was a lot. I was going to ask you, Craig, so you think Kingsley's starting week 3? Maddie, your gut after watching some tape, do you think Kingsley's starting week 3 of the game?
Yeah, I think you go back to him here, but I think the leash to pull him's a little shorter. If he does come out and has a lot of issues with Matt Judon, who's playing for the Falcons, they play next week, you might see a change at halftime or something. I think if you have a 2-minute warning that gets completely subverted because he can't block one player, yeah, I think you might see the switch earlier and then you have to go away from it for a while, but I think they will go back to him right away. He's better in the run game. His issues are going to be, I think, a lot more matchup dependent this year. And so there are matchups that you're going to have to scheme around a little bit more than what they did. I know we got to move the defense. We can't have Craig on a knock talk defense. So real quick, offensively, this offense has to quit trying to force Travis Kelce. It's just, he's not that guy right now. Maybe when you really have to, and you have to go back to it in the playoffs, you can make it work. But for the next, 15 weeks, they're not going to be able to force this offense through Travis Kelce. It's not going to be him. That's fine. That's okay. He can be the third down guy that just makes plays on those downs. You need it within the structure of the play. You need to force the ball to Rashee Rice. 6 targets in that game is unacceptable. I know you guys talked about it earlier. That's unacceptable. There was that first play in the red zone where the Chiefs get stuffed at the 1 and have to kick a field goal. They ran the Travis Kelce route with Rashee Rice. He just ran to the goal line, turned around. The ball's on Travis Kelce there 100% of the time. Pat didn't throw it at all to Rashee Rice. The timing's tight, but they throw that all the time to Travis Kelce. This has got to be an offense funneled through Rashee Rice, finding the mismatches for him, not Travis Kelce. It's got to be about how do we get number 4 the football, not 87. Travis Kelce has to become the secondary player to Rashee Rice. I think that is the biggest thing they can do to fix this team. You scheme up things around 4, not 87 anymore. We don't have to go too deep into it. That was something I noticed is too often it seemed like Rashee Rice was okay, he's involved over here. Let's see what Kelce can do. It's got to flip. I think it has to flip as the year goes on if they are going to find sustained success week in and week out.
All right. Let's let Craig talk about the defense. Let's let him wax poetic a little bit.
And that's going to do it for the KC Laboratory. No.
God, I was tossing it back and forth in my mind if we should just not talk defense at all when Craig came back. The bit would be so funny to just end the show now. But no, I want to talk a little defense too. So Craig, just the floor is yours, buddy. The field's yours.
Oh man. I'm going to say this. I put this in our chat last night. Third best defensive player behind Trent McDuffie and Chris Jones, who have been outstanding, both of them outstanding all year long. Chris Jones was a menace yet again. I think at this point, we should expect this Chris Jones all year long. That is an all-pro level defensive tackle, more than living up to the contract this year. But the third best player for me, and I know that I know how Kent's going to feel about this because I'm not going to say his guy, is Turk Wharton. My goodness, Turk has been outstanding this season, and we have spent a lot of time talking about this defensive tackle rotation, talking about how this defensive line, where's the pressure going to come from? Who's going to step up and win some of these one-on-ones? Right now, the answer to that question, not that George or Mike Dana were bad this week. They were fine. They were good. Turk Wharton is absolutely schooling the interior of the offensive lines that they have played so far, to the point now where Steve Spagnuolo is perfectly comfortable running that three-man front with Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel as linebackers, running a 3-2 defense with extra defensive backs out there and placing Turk Wharton at the nose, Chris Jones is a defensive end, and then a combination of either Mike Dana or George Karlaftis out there. And guess what? It's getting pressure. It's affecting quarterbacks even with a three-man rush. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that everybody wants to shift help to Chris Jones, and Turk Wharton's winning on the interior. He has been phenomenal so far this year. A lot of the plays that we remember right now that are being made by other members of this defensive line or by blitzers or things like that are facilitated by Turk Wharton winning his matchup and the quarterback having to move in the pocket differently than they want to and stepping up into a George Karlaftis sack or a Chris Jones sack, or having to move around and missing a wide open target because he had Turk Wharton in his face. Turk has been phenomenal so far this year, above and beyond what any of us could have expected. Looks finally healthy. I am genuinely excited for this dime rush all of a sudden, and they don't have to use one of the guys that they spent a first-round draft pick on last year, and it's still effective getting home and rushing the passer. I'm thoroughly impressed by what Turk Wharton has shown so far this year.
He looks like he has recovered entirely from the leg injury, from the lower body, from the knee injury. The quickness is back, but I also think he's added weight. He's still listed at 280. Turk don't look 280 no more.
No.
Turk looks 300 pounds now, but now he's explosive again. And more importantly, he's got that lateral agility back. So he crosses the face of a guard so fast, hits the arm over, and he's gone. He has definitely been their second best pass rusher. If you go and look, he's got their second best of the defensive line, pass rush win rate on Pro Football Focus. If you limit it to just true pass sets, he's actually tied with Chris Jones in total number of pressures on those plays. So on your second and third, now that doesn't mean it's the same level of difficulty. Chris Jones gets a lot more attention. So don't get me wrong there, but Wharton has been really good. For me, Leo Chanel still stands out. What the Chiefs do with Leo Chanel is exceptional. They put him as a 3-tech in this game and had him take on a block and then stuff a run at it. And then what they do with him is perfect. And it almost feels ruined because they don't have anybody good enough in coverage to justify playing Leo Chanel more. It's hard to put Leo Chanel out there and Nick Bolton and the way Drew Tranquil's played this year, It's hard to keep all three of them out there because none of them are particularly good in coverage. If you had somebody that was actively good in coverage, I think you could play more Chanel, and it would be a lot of fun to see what they would continue to do with him because he's been great. The role is pretty specific. It's broadening a little bit. They're finding new ways to use him, so he's getting out there more. But it's still different. It's not a traditional linebacker role, and he's so good at it. What he does, though, it's he's right up there with Tershawn Wharton for me as the third, fourth best defender for this team so far. It's crazy how limited, that his role has to be a little limited, and he's still been that good because that's how great he's been at it.
Yeah, taking the thunder with Leo Chanel. I've loved everything
You're
about
welcome.
I love it, man. No, I'm okay because I love waxing poetic about this guy. He being able to weaponize him is really what Steve Spagnuolo has decided to do. And you kind of saw a little bit of that last year. They were starting to figure some things out about how to, weaponize him mostly against heavy personnel, but started to get, him a little bit more involved. But now they're finding ways to keep him on the field even more than they had even in years prior. And I think that's been really good to see. He stepped up to the occasion. He's doing, whatever you ask, but mostly against the run, right? Like that. Like, let's just be honest. Like, that's what it is. I did have one question for you guys. Do you think Willie Gay was that big of a loss in coverage, or is it just that maybe there's not a L'Jarius Sneed now? Because like I know Willie Gay had the athleticism in coverage, but it wasn't like we're talking about like, oh, they don't have this coverage player. Drew Tranquil's not been as good in coverage this year as he was last. Like, we can acknowledge that. And L'Jarius Sneed's not here. But other than that, nothing else has changed. So what is the difference here, Craig?
In my opinion, I think it's got more to do with L'Jarius Sneed and what they trust their corners to do right now. I think we all are sitting there looking at this going, cover a damn tight end in the flat or a running back in the flat. Like, we're just frustrated because the linebackers aren't triggering to get out there quickly. They haven't always triggered to get out there quickly. Certainly Willie does, or did, back in the day. Like, he was one of the only guys that did. But the Chiefs were able to play a much harder flat with their corners because they were able to sit in too high a little bit more. They played a little bit harder flat. They could trust L'Jarius Sneed if, they were showing man. They could trust him to run vertical without safety help. They could trust Trent McDuffie in the slot. As it sits right now, Chiefs are still playing plenty of too high. Don't get me wrong, but they love bringing Justin Reed into the box right now. And if you are going to bring Justin Reed in the box and you are going to have a single high safety of Brian Cook, this is not a slight against Brian, does not have the range to cover sideline to sideline. Nobody does anymore. That era of football is dead. You don't have free safeties that can cover that area of the field. So if you are going to play single high and you want to play zone, what do you have to play? You play cover 3 or you play a cover 6 buzz or something like that where your corners are dropping out. What is the area of the field that's the weakest? That's the flats. That's what we're seeing right now. We are seeing a ton of Justin Reed in the box, clogging up the middle of the field. We are seeing corners drop out quickly. And now you are asking your apex defenders, whether that be your slot defender or your will linebacker, who, if that's Drew Tranquil, could be Nick Bolton in different looks, could be Willie Gay, or not Willie Gay, Leo Chenal in some of those looks. They're just not getting out there in the same sort of way that we have seen it in the past. And so teams have already picked up on that. Steve Spagnuolo is perfectly content to sit back there and let it nickel and dime for now because he would rather keep a lid on Jamar Chase, keep a lid on Zay Flowers. We'll see next week when they've got a guy like Drake London, Darnell Mooney out there that certainly have some speed and have some ability. Bijan Robinson, they're going to lean on checking down to him in the flat. I could see them maybe relying a little bit more on some cover 2, hard flat a little bit more, and give up a little bit more of the run by not having Justin Reed in the box. That's really what I think is happening right now. There's just more on the plate of those apex defenders that can't get out there to make that coverage play.
Darnell Mooney just caught a 40-yard touchdown.
Of course,
the Eagles, by the way.
Good for him.
We're talking about it.
Good for him. For me, I'm with Craig. I don't think it's a Willie Gay thing because they're getting beat in zone a lot right now as is. And I would not say that Willie Gay's strong suit was reading and diagnosing zone plays or reading route combinations in which he had to anticipate where to be. It was a lot more reaction. Like, yeah, could he close and make a tackle sometimes? Yeah, we also saw him close and miss tackles. Like, I don't think there's a missing of Willie Gay in that regard. It's not like they are getting torched in man routinely from the linebacker spot. And that's where maybe you would rely on Willie. I also want to say this. It's not just linebackers. Shamari Connor's been targeted 12 times and given up 10 receptions. Now, it's only for 60 yards. He's coming downhill. He's making tackles mostly like he's getting to his targets near the line of scrimmage, but he's still giving up 10 catches on 12 targets. You go down and look at Justin Reed, 5 catches on 7 targets, this time for 68 yards. Now we're getting a little bit higher. It's like they haven't done good with the safeties that typically are being there. Now, I'm also using PFF for these stats. So, zone coverage, things get a little wonky. But I think if you watch the game, you notice it. There was a big third down where Justin Reed just got beat on an out route. He tripped on the first 4th down of the game coming out of the break. And like there's plays where Shamari Connor's not on guys. So it's not just the linebackers that can beat. They're box safeties. They're slot safeties. The guys that are coming down to play in the nickel are not doing a good job. Trent McDuffie's not in the slot all the time, guys. Somebody else has to make a play down there, right? We talked about it earlier. Trent McDuffie's playing outside more. You want to have that shutdown corner outside. That's cool. Someone's got to step up and take those slot plays and erase stuff. No one's doing it. Not Justin Reed, not Shamari Connor, not Nazeeh Johnson, when they tried to kick him inside for a little, like nobody is doing it. So it's more than just the backers who have been an issue. And then I do think, to Craig's point, they are having to protect their corner 2 a little bit more than they were before. So it's a little bit of everything. I also have 100% faith in Steve Spagnuolo to turn this around come playoff time, because every single year we have seen him do that. Last year was the aberration that they were good from week 1. Every other year it's been, oh my God, how can this defense stop anybody? The playoffs hit and he's doing Steve Spags thing. So
week 12 on, now all of a sudden it's just like, oh, that's it. That's the thing that they needed to do. He knew.
And it's not like it's like a entirely like, let's get super frustrated about the Chiefs giving a touchdown up off of a turnover, or the defense giving up a touchdown off of a turnover. And like, you can explain away a little bit of it there, right? Like the offense was more of a problem, I think, than the defense this week. All right. It's sticker slaps and spirits time. We are doing this.
Ooh, it's back. Let's go.
So back. We haven't done this in like,
yeah, that's on us.
7. Well, stickers and slaps. Like, I don't know. You need the spirits here still, too. I'll give...
Sorry, Tuck. You're not involved, buddy.
Wow.
If it was an ice cold beer, then then it would be Tucker.
I watched this man pour the stiffest pour of bourbon last night. I don't know what you're talking about, Kent.
I felt that, too. I felt that. Every bit of that pour, I felt.
It was pretty hefty. It was pretty hefty. Helmet sticker. That's me, right? Let's go. I'm so out of practice. Harrison Butker for kicking the game-winning field goal. Good job on you, my friend. And congratulations, walking it off and celebrating while the ball is going through the end, like through the goalpost. That was pretty sick. I rewatched that today. It was pretty cool. So the walk-off from Harrison Butker gets a helmet sticker for me. Butt slapping, a good job, Matthew Lane.
My bad. I didn't know I was up. Butt slap for Jamar Chase for acting like a big ass baby. You got a butt slap. Good job, butt slap. This is a spanking like the child you're acting like. Grow up. Look at this sad ass. Grow up. You got words.
Sad ass.
You got words. Deal with it. Also, yeah, the good butt slap and a good job. Trent McDuffie. I said I wasn't going to use him for my toast game last night because he deserved a bigger segment. We gave him the bigger segment yesterday and today. He still gets a good job because it's worth it.
Funny enough, Trent McDuffie was the one doing the butt slap on Jamar Chase.
True.
So that's
true.
All right, Craig.
Ref.
All right. Whole ass bottle of vodka.
Oh, it's a boy. That's a big boy.
Put that down on the table for the audio listeners. To Chamari Connor. Makes a play of the game. Unequivocally, the play of the game.
Yeah.
Heads up, scooping the ball up, running it back. An incredible third down sack as well. Joe Burrow was absolutely fooled by that call. He's going to have some up and down moments, but this team is going to continually count on him to play in the slot, to play safety, to be this kind of weapon that they move all around the defense. That's why they're able to move guys like Justin Reed around, Trent McDuffie around, Leo Chenal around. When you have this amoebic group of guys that can do a little bit of everything, it makes you a better, more unpredictable defense. And Shamari, again, going to have up and down. This was a major up for him this week. So a whole ass bottle of vodka for Shamari Connor here. Handle it this time.
For those of you keeping track at home, Craig used the word truncated and amoebic on the show today. That's the kind of vocabulary that we needed on this show, and we are very grateful. It's been a great episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you to friend of the show, Greg Stout. That's Matt Lane. I'm Kent Swanson. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
Look out for Mr. Kareem Hunt.